And we are live. Yes.
Ooh.
Adam's in his cave, and Ice is in her kitchen, and we are feeling good in our places. And
Yes,
I can
feeling
tell.
so good. I love your kitchen.
Okay, well, thank you. I love it too. And I don't own it, but I do
Well, it's
live in
very
it.
beautiful to me, and you're
Thank you.
matching your colors that you're wearing are matching the colors of your vase behind you.
Go figure. I call these mermaid colors.
Yeah. Ooh,
Okay.
mermaid. That's a
Um,
seductive fifth line
Oh,
energy.
yeah. Okay. Well, speaking of which, okay, so I'm going to go for this might become a ritual here. I'm going to go for the lighting of the coffee pot. But speaking of the seductive fifth line, so yesterday was a fourth line day, but you're saying that we had a fifth line energy happening.
Oh my God, I just felt so much beauty and such attract. I was just so like as you discussed and shared with me, I was so
Uh-huh.
distracted by the visual of you two that the
Uh-huh.
audio, the visual was so seductive. There was so much beauty and this feminine, seductive energy of the broadcast yesterday of that fourth line days that I felt
Uh-huh.
like, wow. I was like, oh, this is why the visual is so distracting because I couldn't really get the juice of the like in our LYD class. I'm just hearing Isa's voice. I'm just hearing the frequency. I'm hearing the thoughts, and it's going straight here
Uh-huh.
in my head, and then those your voice carries and builds throughout the week
Mm-hmm.
after the LYD classes last. But yesterday, your image, you, both of
Uh-huh.
you all's look, I was so like visually distracted with just how beautiful I just kept getting this beautiful energy from you all and y'all's movement and the flow and the yeah, it was like wow, they're so seductive today to
Well,
me.
that's really interesting feedback, and it really plays into Neutrino Cafe too. Because I wasn't trying to be cute. I mean, I was trying to be cute, like friendly cute, but I wasn't trying to be like sexy or anything. And like my T-shirt thing was literally just
Yeah,
wear a
I
black
thought it was
T-shirt.
intentional. You had your shoulder out. I was like, okay, Miss Isa Manifestor, come through with the seductiveness.
And that's okay. So that's just like dumb female, like not understanding what that she's doing that, I guess. But um, yeah. So I mean, what if I was doing that while I was teaching LYD? What if I were, like,
Yeah, no, I was totally like, okay, the distinction of doing LYD with no visual versus
mhm.
seeing you live in yesterday with visual, it was such a distinction of distraction. But for me, it wasn't bad. It was just like, oh, I get it now. The quality of the information is lesser because my eyes, and I guess I don't know if this is part of my 1222, but visually, I was so so distracted and stimulated by the visual. Like I'm looking now in your kitchen, right? I'm all in your background of your kitchen.
Mhm.
So again, I'm not sure what mechanic that is in me or where that comes from, but I'm like very visually like, ooh, what's happening in your background? Look at your kitchen. Look at your vase.
And you're not even set up to be a visual person as much the way that I read what's happening here, but you're telling me that that was an effect, and this is this is part of Neutrino Cafe. I want to make Neutrino Cafe a mostly acoustic place. Now we're like right now I don't have our visuals in front of us. So now we can go back to okay, there's the two of us, or there's the two people, there's all these details. I'm looking at your hat, I'm looking at, the light through the windows, and there's a tree behind you and the leaves are moving, and it's cool. I mean, it's cool that, like feel this close through visuals. But the thing that, you know, okay, let's see. Uh
I
okay.
think the visual you get to learn. Visual for me is like it helps me get to experience your aura.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Cause seeing you in your kitchen, seeing you in your movements, I'm getting the experience of a of 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 your aura mechanics in action. I'm seeing it in action.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, because you're
Okay.
looking at me now and you can see like I'm in my bubble. This is my cave.
Yeah.
Like like I feel so great here. Like you're seeing me
Mhm.
in a great space. Here in my bubble with my view, you know, there's this tree and this hill behind me, so there's nothing behind me. I can't tell you how great that feels to like back into a parking space and there's nothing behind me. And now you know, it's just me and my car. It just feels like I'm in my cave. So visually, you're able to see the experience of aura mechanics, if I'm saying that right.
Well,
You
you
may
know, and I'm
not
not.
learn it. It may not be a great time to learn the knowledge
Mhm.
of it, but you're able to. Watching it is like, aha! It's another. Watching it is another way to process it.
Yeah, and there's all kinds of well, I suppose so. I mean, I'm definitely no expert on it. But I'm playing around, you know, with this Neutrino Cafe, like putting up these images. So now there's two moving images plus words. Now I could go just words, right? And then the person and the viewers involved are going to be involved in those words. They're going to be looking at these colors and stuff, and then they're going to be hearing our frequencies. And I don't know right now. Can you see me at all? You can't see me, can you?
No, I don't see you, but I am curious if you want to, if you feel comfortable unpacking about frequency and human design as an acoustic medium. I'm sure you were going to go there, but I would love to. I would
Well,
love. My mind is like, ooh, let me hear it some more.
right. Okay. Well, and okay. So, um, I don't, let's see. So there's that. So by the way, I didn't make up this phrase. This phrase is from Deborah Bergman, 6'2" manifesting generator that worked with Ra for years and years. And she gave a presentation recently at the Human Design Rave Marathon over the new year. And this was one of this wasn't her slide, but this was her phrase that I put on my slide. So let me put up another one. Let's see if I can try another one. This one's about frequency. This one's about acousticness. So I don't know why I noticed this so early, but I remember taking a picture in 2019, and it was like a Kinko's copy shop, and it was just like a poster advertising something that Kinko sold. But the actual words printed, it said HD voice, and that was it, HD voice. And I was like, oh, that's like a radio show for human design. And I liked that idea. And somewhere around there, I started listening to other people in human design. I think before that, I had just read materials and read Facebook. I think it was just Facebook was really my primary source. And so I don't know, I just started getting a sense of like, I don't think this is right that we're just sharing all these typed words and these little like smart ass this, smart ass that, or, you know, just there was something about the written words. And I started hearing people. And then I heard this person, I heard that person. Of course, I was listening to Raw. And it's like, there's something like we should be talking. And around that time, I think I started talking about it on Facebook. And Deborah Bergman and other people were part of that conversation. And I was thinking things like, what if we used ham radios? Do you know what a ham radio is?
The old radios.
It's like the individual single sideband operator of a radio. Like nerdy people have them, sailors have them, and they can be
Okay.
used. You have to get your own little kind of broadcasting license or of some sort, some kind of permission to be able to use certain radio frequencies, and you get to talk radio to radio. So sailors use it, and nerdy people that have radio things in their basement do it, right? So I started thinking, what if we had like a network of single sideband radios, ham operators, and we were communicating that way? That takes away every bit of media intervention in something like that, and allows us to communicate really directly. So there was that, and I don't know. I think I'm just sensitive, so I'm going to put up our charts. So you have this individual channel on the emotional side, and I have this individual channel on the splenic side. You see what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Your 1222 is kind of a emotional mirror of my 5720. So there's something to that. Um, I haven't studied tones. Is that something that you're familiar with?
No, I mean not enough to
Yeah.
give.
Well, and me neither, but I think it gets into some stuff I've sort of gotten into with tones, and that is that, individuality, the the structure of individuality, it's right down the middle, and then it's your channel and this channel, it's the inside, and that's where the new stuff comes from. That's where the mutative stuff comes from. The collective is sharing what already exists. Nothing new is coming from the collective, right? Now, I hope I'm getting this right. I mean, if somebody is here, I'm going to turn on the comments and see if
Well, if in my experience nothing new comes from the collective, I don't know what the knowledge of human design is, but collective people are. I don't have any collective life force, so I and I kind
me
of see the
neither.
collective resharing and sharing stuff that I'm like, well, that's not new.
Right, exactly. So, exactly. It's not new. And so, um, but there's a role in that, right? I mean, that makes garbage collection happen, and like cool things happen from the collective. But I'm not turned on by the collective either. Like I hear collective people talk, and like within 5 seconds, I'm like, that person doesn't have anything for me. And those are people, I remember that first judgment from a particular individual. Like I heard that like 4 years ago, and mind said, there's nothing for me there. Now I've met this individual, there's a lot of good things happening, and okay, great, you do that. But me, for individual, I need garbage collection.
Well, I appreciate the collective when it comes to this working the system. Collectives know how to, because of that, they know how to work the system.
I guess
And
so,
and
right?
I can't speak for other individuals, but as an individual and the ones that I have interacted with, it's like we struggle trying to fit in the system and survive in the system. So it's almost like I gotta get mentored and tutored by these collective machine
Totally.
people.
Totally. Yep, I
Because
hear
I
you.
really don't know how to survive. I'm like, I don't get it. And that's always been my language. I'm sorry, I just don't get it. I just don't get it. Like, oh, just get in where you can fit in. Do it, do it, do it.
Yeah. Okay. By the way, I love it. I love it whenever you say you don't know what's going on, or you don't get it, or like even typing or spoken. It's just so clean and clear, and it's so much better than an open ajna trying to pretend like they got it. It's clean. I really appreciate that. So,
Sometimes it's there. I think it's there with age. I think it just can't. It comes with age. As a 3-5,
uh-huh.
failing so much at stuff that
Uh-huh.
I was so certain of in my 20s and 30s. I think now it's just kind of like, as a 3, I think that us 3s get a grace at that open anja failing us earlier on in life.
Well, there you go. Oh, that's maturity there. Listen to that maturity. Yeah, there's something good about aging, isn't there?
Yeah, it's not going to take long for a 3 to realize that there's not much that they're pretending to be certain, because life is, they're going to bump into things that are going to constantly let them know, nope, you were wrong.
Yeah, well, I know at least one older 3-5 that I don't know if she's gonna get that lesson, but she's not into human design. That's not her trip this time around. I mean, what can you do? Um, but yeah, regarding human design being acoustic and then individuality, yeah, I was wondering about this myself earlier before we started talking, actually, and maybe I'm accurate to say, maybe I'm wrong, that the to say human design is an acoustic medium is to say that the mutative stuff is coming out acoustically. And so if human design is here to mutate people and empower them, because that's what individuality does too, it empowers them. So if it's about empowering people, no matter what their circuitry is, into uniqueness and into differentiating and the deconditioning process, maybe that's what it means.
Well,
Right?
this may be me stretching, but I have a background in I went to seminary school.
Yes. So I knew about Seminary School, and then later I found out about television production. So the fact that both of them are there, I'd love to hear more.
You know that um, when I hear you break this down and how you just said it, and you said it in the LYD class, I think about human design as a gospel.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And I may not be remembering this correctly, from my seminary school days, but I do know that the gospel is a word that means a spell, a good spell.
Oh,
Meaning,
wow. Okay.
yes, so the origin of the word was that the disciples were to go and to proclaim this good spell. And upon hearing the word,
Ah.
there
Mhm.
was going to be a transformation happening inside of them.
Aha.
And it was a
Aha.
spell that was spoken. It was just going to be a good spell, not a bad spell. So the gospel literally means a good spell that is spoken to someone that has a it's a spellbounding effect upon them. And upon hearing it and upon receiving this word, so that's why in the Christian tradition there's in the gospels there's always this emphasis on if you receive this word, if you receive these words that you hear today, you will have
Uh-huh.
life. So it's about receiving what you hear. And by hearing the word being preached to you about the gospel of Christ or the message, it begins to have a transformative effect upon you.
That's brilliant. And okay, well, here we go. So Ra, he was not into talking about God, right? He was proudly, or I don't know, proudly, but he was like whatever, secular in his life, right? And he started out that way in human design too, but by the end he was like, I see your divinity and I'm getting all schmaltzy about God and divinity and stuff, okay? So that's missing from any human design before, but what you just said is new information to me, and it's making my hair stand up, and I love hearing that. It's a good spell. Okay, so the way that it's been put in Ra's words before has been something, or maybe it wasn't even his words, but I'm thinking of this Jovian archive meme right now, and it says something like, you know human design is an acoustic transmission. And this is the thing about living your design. And I guess you're in my gospel, living your design gospel class. But there is something to having it go into your ears, just like you said, from somebody else who's actually living it. Now, I had the crazy fortune of not even knowing living your design really existed, or at least I didn't care after I'd read about it. And then I found myself living with somebody who's teaching it. So I sat on the couch and listened to the LYD teacher deliver it. And look how deep it got into me. It's like, uh, so yeah, good spell. Okay, so there are good spells. But if you're only playing around with the visuals, if you're only type, 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 then you're never getting a good spell from someone.
But I do think there is some visual component too. I don't know.
Well, yeah. Well, because the mind loves to be educated, and I think visuals is more mental. It's more
Okay.
mind stuff, and the mind loves to be educated and learn these things. Like, yeah. But do you have more to say about
So
that?
maybe, well, no, I want to just rephrase what I think I hear you're saying and
Yeah.
going back to connect some things and then you can maybe expound upon it. But I guess the key is that when it comes to being mutative, that
Hmm.
sound is the mutative frequency, not so much the visual. Is
Maybe,
that
maybe, but I don't know. I mean, there are experts. There are people that have just a few more years of training than me that could answer that question better. But I'm with you on that, because my body can change from listening to people talk. Hairs can stand up on my arms. Like, if I talk to the same guy every day, the shape of my body might change. I mean, there are things going into my ears that are affecting me on all levels. So, but I don't think that would happen for me visually, but maybe that's because I'm individual and not, I don't know.
here I will testify to this. When I say testify, I mean I will give an experience. I know
Yeah.
an individual who does not do human design. They know about it. They don't follow their authority. They're not living out their experiment. But they visually saw the human design body graph before we knew what it was.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
They saw it in a dream.
Uh-huh. Okay.
But they went, and then when we discovered it, I was thinking like, wow, you won't believe this, but remember that dream and you drew this? Look, here it is. It didn't move them.
Yeah.
Like it
Yeah.
didn't move. It didn't, even though they saw a download of human design, not knowing what it was. Then we found it. I was thinking, wow, this is really going to wow them,
Mm-hmm.
and make them excited about this experiment. But it didn't.
Uh-huh.
Um, is and so now that I'm making that connection, I'm thinking that maybe it is the sound that creates the mutative invitation, a
Uh-huh.
call.
Okay, well, there you go. I definitely was like audio called into the living your design thing that I got into, and people that I've been attracted to are people that I like listening to in human design, and they're not necessarily people I want to look at per se. And like we talked about the other day, the good analysts, they don't do video calls for their sessions. It's only audio there.
So maybe
So,
the audio is because it is individual. Maybe it is audio that creates the mutative. The
hmm
mind visual is good for getting the knowledge, but for the mutative actual experiment um,
there you
to
go.
happen.
I think you're getting it right there, because the life is below the throat. As you know from LYD now, like the body's life, which is what this life is below the throat. But what's happening up here is outer authority, right? It's shareable and it's visual, and yeah, something like that. Um, Now, I made this slide that we're looking at. I pieced this together, Raw's text. Somebody made this image. I don't know, how good of an image it is, but it gets the point across about neutrinos coming in through the crystals and so forth. So this is talking about frequency, and I have a hard time distinguishing frequency from acoustic. I mean, we have visual frequency, but we have acoustic frequency. But in particular, what I'm thinking about here is that and he says here that you can't adjust your frequency from the mental plane. So if you're only mentally and visually involved in human design, then you aren't going to change. Your frequency is not going to change for that. Like going through university doesn't necessarily change your frequency, but adjusting your frequency through the form. Now, through the form meaning things like sleeping alone, you know, THS eating. I think those are probably the two biggest ones. And I think I can hear people. I think the people whose frequency I like are people who are in their PHS eating, so their form is settled in a certain way that allows their voice, their frequency to really come out. Does that ring any bells to you?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, well, I've heard you expound upon it, um,
Mhm.
and I can attest to feeling clearer and cleaner
Mhm.
when I eat accordingly to my suggested PHS. Matter of fact, I broke my. Yesterday, I was, whatever reason, I know exactly what it is. I was being conditioned. I've met with my parents,
Oh yeah, no, totally. I get it. You meet with your family and you eat with your family. Uh-huh.
and I just went straight into like, I got my appetite. And for me, I'm an indirect. My pH is indirect, meaning for those who are listening that may not know, meaning it's better for me to eat where there's no sunlight coming in my eyes, on my head, or in my arms. That's how I experienced it.
Mhm.
Um, and for me, I'm not suppressing my appetite. This is what I always encourage people to think that they think that I'm ritualistically not eating, and because I read don't eat. It's not about me reading it somewhere. I don't have an appetite until the sun goes down,
Mhm. Mhm.
unless I'm being conditioned.
Right. Mhm.
And
Mhm.
yesterday, I was with my parents. They were eating everything. And after I left them, I was so hungry, right? And I went and ate just a piece of cake. And when I came home, I just felt so groggy, so it was just toxic. And my roommate came in and looked at me and said, "Are you sick? You look out of it." And I
Mm-hmm.
said, "Not quite sick, but I get what you're saying." And they was like, "What is it then?" I was like, "Nothing." I didn't go into details to explain to them, but I knew what they were visually seeing in me and my energy.
Uh-huh.
It was how I felt. All I ate was like 3 pieces of cake, but it just I became, and it's almost like I became like a sick being just from
Mm-hmm.
eating that. And I can imagine trying to communicate from that way. I can imagine trying to, like, it felt like I didn't have any cognitive function to do anything clear.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't see it in other people. So that's the so I'm saying all that
Okay.
to say, what other people aren't doing there, I don't know if I pick up their I don't know if I pick up their dirtiness like the way you saying that you do it.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I don't want to pick up on it. I'm like, geez, I saw you mentally doing this, but I don't know. I do notice it, and yeah.
Or
So,
maybe I don't know what they look like clear.
well, there's that because, well, at least in my yeah. So you understand, like you eat something that's not in your PHS protocol, and you immediately feel a burden of it. It's a burden on your body immediately. And I have had this as well. I mean, it happens to me too, and I've watched myself do it. You know, so from my perspective, that's one of the it's one of the elephants. It's the elephant in. It's a big elephant in the HD experiment room because from my experience, every time what my experience means is every time you're not eating from your PHS, you're conditioning your body from the inside. So even if you're alone in your own aura, then it's like your guts are a conditioning force, and it's a specifically not, like conditioning from the inside right there. So anyway, at
But
Neutrino
Isa, could you
Cafe.
go back to more about the just I'm feeling so
Mhm.
drawn to this to flesh out some more, unpack
Yeah. Well, let's.
the idea about the form. The transformation happens through the form.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
don't think this is stressed enough.
Yeah.
Well, not out there in the world that I get information from, the free world.
Right. Yeah. So, okay. So here's Ra's words: adjusting your frequency through the form is where it begins. That's one way of saying it. So could I say more about adjusting through the form? Well,
Because that's how we started talking about PHS was one way.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
You said sleeping alone.
Yeah. Well, if
I hear this a lot. I'm tribal, so
uh-huh.
sleeping alone for me feels like my natural mammalian instinct to sleep
Uh-huh.
next to a body.
Yeah. Well, I get it. I get
I
it.
haven't had that option in years, but anyway. But it
Yeah.
still feels like if I get a relationship, I'm like, no, this feels natural and organic
Yeah.
for a tribal person like me with the
Yeah.
4037, the 59.6. I want to sleep next to somebody.
Well, I hear you on that. It doesn't mean you can't nap with people. Okay. But the main things about that I can say are, well, now I know about dream rave. Okay. So before I knew about dream rave, it didn't seem like as big of a deal. Um, but I think about now I have this information in my head about what kind of conditioning is happening at night, and it's completely different set of conditioning. Like nine-centered ISA, I'll just put up my chart for a minute. Um, nine-centered ISA doesn't exist when I'm asleep. The form gets turned, like turn this 90 degrees so it's horizontal, and take away the head and the ajna and the ego and the solar plexus. And that five-centered form is what is interacting with the neutrino feed. And the only channel in there is this 5720. But those details aren't helping you. It's like while that five-centered form exists at night, it's being conditioned with no mind in between, no strategy and authority. It's just purely being conditioned. And it's being conditioned from different forces, including humans that are awake. Humans that are awake are processing the neutrino stream, right? Neutrinos are coming into them and coming out of them. And those people, those awake people, their neutrino stream is feeding into my neutrino stream while I'm asleep through my gate 5, for example. So,
Yeah.
so I learned all these ways that even while you're flat out, you're being conditioned. Okay, so there's that.
Well, you know that they say in the spiritual communities, in the occult communities, that 3 o'clock hour when people are in their sleep is the best time to condition them. I'm going to use the word condition. I'm not going to say. I'm not going to call. I don't want to. I don't want to talk about black magic. But I have always heard that for years.
Okay. Well,
if you want to do work on people, do it while they're sleeping. Now, like, aha.
Oh, dude, I would love to show you the details of that. And I'm no expert. And again, Deborah Bergman is the expert. But yeah, it's kind of crazy to think about. Like, my mind got blown with Dream Rave over a slow period of months, like with explosions of like. So that's one element.
Do you have any testimonies that you can look back and see in your life where you lay next to somebody and then over time recognize some conditioning that you know distinctly came from that connection or their conditioning?
Okay, that's a good question. I'm going to see if I can come back.
I do. So that's why I know acoustically when you said in the LYD class, instantaneously, I was like, yep, I don't need any more. I have very documented, like, I journaled about it years ago. Like, oh, this happened after I woke up next to so-and-so. Like, this now all of a sudden.
Okay,
so when you told me that, when you said it when you told us, it was like, yep, that I knew I have documented cases in my journal where I observed, where is this coming from in me?
So the thing about that is that one thing to remember is that what you remember of your dreams isn't necessarily what happened there, because what happens is there's a chemical download kind of thing that happens where when you wake up, the chemistry that built up through the neutrino interactions during the night, it goes from the 5-centered thing to the 9-centered thing. So it gets distributed out. And so it wasn't necessarily that your dream was about person X.
Oh, no. Yes. So, no, that's what I'm saying. No, not that I'm having a dream about them. I'm talking about I'm laying down with someone. I don't remember any dreams. All of a sudden, I'm up about doing things that they would do.
Okay, so
and I'm saying, wait a second, this isn't my taste of music, for example, or this isn't a place that I would even watch on. But in my mind, I'm like, I don't remember a dream. I don't remember. I just fell asleep. But when I wake up, I'm feeling something in my body that's aligning me into their steps.
Yeah, there you go. So that's what's happening when you're sleeping next to somebody else. Their dream rave becomes your dream rave, and vice versa. So you're having a different dreaming experience. You might be getting, some people really do get like messages from the information field while they're sleeping, and that's had a role in the development of humanity. But you might be getting messages like through them. I mean it. And then when you wake up, then the next deal, besides all the conditioning while you're asleep, when you wake up, then you wake up with their aura there. So your first like consciousness, your first breath, so to speak, because it's kind of like Adam dies every single night. Isa dies every single night. There is no Isa while she's asleep. There's no Adam. So your first breath of each day, if it's not in your own aura, then your first breath of the day is not a differentiated atom.
This is good.
And here, my biggest test, because I wasn't aware of this before I was aware of it, but this puppy came into my life last summer, and I let her sleep in my room, not in my bed, but I let her sleep in my room for the first 3 or 4 months. I was concerned about bonding issues with her age and her background and everything. And then there was a week where I was like, oh shit, she's a 515 generator. She's been sleeping in my room. Like, I think I was like, oh God, I think my dog's been conditioning me. And then other people were telling me, yeah, your dog's been conditioning you. And
Wow.
then she went out and now she sleeps, out in a separate room.
Wow. And
Okay.
so that is more example of how the form,
Yes.
we're moving through our form, not our mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or we're transforming through what's happening below
Yeah.
the
And
body.
yeah. Yeah.
Is it accurate? So when I say this, I'm gonna ask you this. So
Yeah.
when we're talking about the form is not the mind area, the head and the angina, is that not considered part of the form?
Oh, well, it is. That's a great question too. It's not that it's not. So, hmm, boy, I would love to interview some people to get a better answer on that. Because
And we'll
yeah,
bring them into the cafe, and hopefully I'll be sitting around the corner drinking some
yeah,
coffee listening.
exactly. Well, we could use your energy for it for sure. Yeah, I love that question, and I guess I think I shouldn't try to dig into the answer for that. Um, I mean, what comes to mind at first is that the the traditional understanding that the mind is just this gray matter in our skull and that our consciousness comes out of the gray matter, we can get rid of that one. It's not like that. Are you familiar with the idea that the gut system is like a brain? It's one of our brains, that it is a
Yeah,
brain.
I've heard it in different places. I've not
Yeah,
did my own study in it, but yes, I've heard it. I heard it a lot, and I've heard Dewan
yeah,
Cornish talk about it a lot, speak of it a lot. He seems to be
exactly.
a really good expert at that.
Yeah, so I would like to invite Dwan into the cafe to talk about this topic because yeah, we could. So we could. So the first thing I knew about him was that he knew about the gut biome. I'm like, I want to talk to you about that. And in fact, just to put it out there, since the way how he caught my attention was in a Chaitanya post about the elephant in the room of PHS. The question was, why is it so hard for people to enter into their PHS? Because for me, it wasn't hard. And for you, it was like you tried not to, but you did. So both of us were kind of just like, okay, we're in
Yeah.
now. And
Oh
there
my
was
God.
kind of
Yeah,
no
that
going
was
back.
one of my most weird experiences with human design.
Yeah, yeah, and I was actually listening to that earlier. So the question was, why is it so hard? And Dwan wrote simply because of their gut biome question mark. And I was like, dude, whoa, I think that's the answer because it's like there's this whole other ecosystem in the gut biome that's not human. It's all these different DNA, all these different creatures. I mean, it's like a forest or like an underwater garden. It's not human. So there's like 26 feet of not human inside of our abdomen, and I think that's playing on people, and yet we don't talk about it. But at the Neutrino Cafe, I want to talk about it.
Yeah, when I look back at what forced me into my PHS, I when I first read about it, right, and then heard about it, I made a mental decision that's not for me. Especially when I heard you had the option, right? Oh, if it's not your time, you just can't. I like good because I'm not going to do it because it makes no sense logically.
Uh-huh.
Even though there was some truth in it, I just felt like the logic in me was just like no. But I did an apple fast, a 3-day apple fast
Uh-huh.
that Edgar Casey had recommended a long time ago about
Hmm.
cleansing the gut. And it was
Yeah.
after that apple fast that it was like it's almost like I got tricked somehow in my subconscious. It's like once I did that apple fast, it was like my body was like, we're now going to put you on indirect dieting.
Well, I'm sure glad I
And
heard that. I hadn't heard that before, but
yeah, because I
given
forgot to make that connection.
yeah.
It was because when I look back, I can see very clearly I did do a fast. And when I went back, when I got off that fast, I could not eat during the daylight. And I thought I was sick. I went to the doctor.
Really?
Yeah, I went because my IBS seemed to be. I never experienced IBS, and the doctor said, "Sir, there's not." He said, "I think it's the psychosomatic. Are you stressed?" And I was like, "No, not more stressed than the 3-5 ever is." And then some. I just said, I accidentally forgot to eat one day, which is indication of I'm indirect. Because most people, when I tell them their story, it's like no one forgets to eat, but I literally have forgot to eat. I was like, oh, it's nice. I forgot to eat today, and I ate. And after 4 weeks of IBS, I had no problem.
Mm-hmm.
Only thing different was I ate at night,
Mm-hmm.
and I
Mm-hmm.
tried it, and I was like, I'm gonna try this for 2 weeks and see what happens. And my symptoms went away.
Mm-hmm.
And then I felt like, oh well, I guess I'm forced into this now. And
Mm-hmm.
then when I would tell people in my family did not react harshly because they knew me. And my mom said, you've been that way your whole life. I couldn't get you to eat during the day when you were a child.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Uh-huh.
So they weren't even nobody. Everyone was like, yeah, Adam, we know that's about you. You don't like to eat because we were with you during the daytime growing up. And they were like, we're hungry. And you're like, and we're asking you, are you hungry? And your mom like, no, but I'll eat. And they like, that's the phrase I always say, no, but I'll eat. So when I told everyone, they were like, that makes total sense because we've known you. All of my siblings and my parents are like, yeah, that's who we observed you to be. Not a
Mm-hmm.
person who eats until nighttime.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There you go. So yeah, your whole life you've been aware of that. A symptom for me was I did like to eat alone, and I was always the last person at the dinner table in the family situation. And I thought there was something wrong with me that I ate slow. Turns out I was waiting to not be talking because being the manifestor at the table with my two parents, I was always like this, the three-part conversation with them. So I had to wait. So so I like hearing that, and I swear I mean I didn't really like choose to like I'm gonna go be friends with Adam Melvin, but once I heard you, I was like, wow. And then like our ease of conversation has always been there, and I think there's a PHS frequency involvement there, and at the Neutrino Cafe, that I'll pull up a little text about that in a moment. I want to be really open about that conversation. I don't need to hide that. I don't need to say, oh, it's not important or anything. I'm going to say, from my perspective, it's a big deal. And you can't force yourself with your mind. That's true. But I'm not going to hide the fact that there's a difference in frequency between people who are eating that way and people who aren't. And so, it's just, yeah. So part of, are you
But I
ready?
do want to before you jump off of that, what would be your final thoughts to someone who's
Mhm.
about what is your experience? Do you wait for your authority to lead you and is correct for you, or can you begin to make a conscious choice? I'm going to follow my PHS, so you can begin to transform the form. Because I keep hearing so many different takes on
Yeah.
it.
Well, at a really ultimate level, I don't think there's a choice about any of it. Like you're on your way, you're not on your way. You can think that you're choosing it, but I mean, this is hard for me to talk about because it's, I haven't been around human design that long, okay? But I mean, the voice told Raw that from the beginning, right? Like it didn't say no fucking choice. Apparently, it just said no choice. So, and if you go from there, if you start with the premise that no human has a choice about anything, and then you look, okay, well, he got all this knowledge, okay, that if you study it, if you study these mechanics, like you just don't have to go very far into the substructure mechanics to see that we are totally helpless about what we're doing. But we have these minds that have been doing this certain role for all those years of seven-centered humanity. So that we have this like leftover joke of thinking that we're choosing it. So I thought I chose it in a way, like I heard Raw. Actually, the way that the day that I had really dropped into it, my PHS was the day I heard Raw deliver my variable lecture about my specific variable. I'm 3 parts left and right brain. And something about that said, oh, yeah. So there was this knowledge that came to me. And then I think I made a decision, then to stop eating in cafes and stuff. But it's most people, and I'm still have trouble like the full bite into no choice, But if anybody's hearing somebody talk about it, if there's any maybe I should check that out, like I don't know, there'll be a corner at the cafe where people can talk about it. Is that a satisfying answer?
Yeah, it satisfies. It satisfies because yeah. This cafe, your Neutrino Cafe. Ooh,
Okay.
sexy sounding name.
Yeah, it is a name. So, have you ever heard? From Gate 62? Have you ever heard the fixing of names is the foundation of the Maya?
No,
Okay,
no,
doesn't this sound biblical? At the beginning, there was the word, right?
absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
so my design Earth is in Gate 62, line 2. So I'm this unconscious natural at labeling things, is one way.
Mm.
So to say that. So I don't know exactly what Neutrino Cafe is, but I've been talking about it, and everyone else seems to like the label too. Um, so we've talked about this before. Do you mind if we go here now?
Oh, I would love to.
Okay, so we've had a few conversations, and so this is what came out recently when I tried to summarize it. So, hmm. So I've talked about the cafe, and I'd love to have you ask me questions. This is a good time. But I'll say this. Before I understood about aura, and like, let me put this differently. The Neutrino Cafe idea came out in the first few months of lockdown. That's when I got the website, neutrinocafe.design, sometime around there. And my sense at that time was something like, if I could just open a cafe right now, this would be my next stage in my human design experiment. I'll just, like anarchists open an anarchy cafe, or vegans open a vegan cafe. You just, and the idea that, well, I could drop in, instead of dropping into Facebook to get my human design interaction, what if I could just drop into a cafe, and then maybe sometimes I sit in the corner and, by myself, and I just watch people, and other times, I'm right at the bar ordering drinks for people, making something happen. Other times I'm out back smoking, like, what if it was a physical place and I could never get kicked out because it was my cafe? So my human design is going to be allowed there, right? I know that for sure. And I could kick people out, if I wanted to, in my cafe.
Hmm.
And I could, host open mic nights, and all these things. So the metaphor is wonderful. I don't know how it translates into a non-physical space exactly, but you have said some good things about it, and that's helped me. By the way, I'll mention you're a 3-5 cross of planning. So I think you've got some wiring to help me get a sense of what my vague concept how it looks like concretized, right? Because it is a tribal kind of thing. I want to be able to hug people in my cafe. We're not wearing masks in my cafe. Okay? You don't have to be vaccinated in my cafe, right? Okay, you show up. If I hug you, then it's great. If you hug me first, you probably lost. Okay. So I think I'll might even make a second cup of coffee. I'd like to hear questions. Do you want to ask me?
Yeah, well, I am curious about how inspired you are feeling from the idea of a virtual cafe.
Well, what's a
I'm
virtual
just curious
cafe?
about the energy in you,
Yeah.
the inspiration when it
Yeah.
comes to, because I can hear and feel this real sense of passion and
hmm
purpose behind that physical space. And the way you
hmm
describe it, every time you describe it, I see it so physically. I see it. I can start smelling
Yeah.
it and hearing it. But I'm curious, do you feel the same way when you're thinking about it, transferring it or projecting it or manifesting it as a virtual world like this?
Yeah.
Is it
Well,
does it have the same or does it feel lesser to you?
it feels what? Okay. I get to be in my own aura. I don't have to wear pants. There's all those things about, this. but I'm not super experienced in the virtual thing. So, doing this channel thing and practicing with the broadcast is part of me feeling that out for sure. Um, I have had experiences in the past 6 months, like the Rave New Year Marathon was an event where everyone showed up on a screen, and there we all were in the at the beginning of it, and then I did one winter solstice gathering, and there were like 12 people there, and so I got to experience that. So there's things I like about it. There are things that I like about the virtual thing. I think I'm limited in what I understand I could do. For example, I haven't gotten into any of these audio chat things like Clubhouse and Discord, mostly just because, well, I don't know. I've heard second lines don't like to do new things that they're not good at. So that's part of
Well,
it,
I
maybe.
also think it's what we said earlier. I may be off on it, but I feel like it's such a collective thing. The apps you just mentioned.
Oh, right, about those other places. Yeah, yeah, they are very collect. Well, I don't know. I guess I haven't been in them, but my
They feel so, because when I tried them, I've been invited by a lot of heavy collective people who are like, these are the best things ever, Clubhouse and Discord. And then I'm in it and I'm on it, I'm just like, yeah,
right,
no, thank
right.
you.
Yeah, right. Okay, so I think that's some individuality for both of us too. Me, it's like, why would I join somebody else's group? Like, why
That
would I?
too.
Okay, so that's the manifestor thing. But if it's my cafe, like I said, I've already got my place, and it's wherever the fuck I want to do in it. So there's no, so there's that's part of it. Uh,
But yeah, yeah. But okay, okay.
let's see. I'm trying to think. Do I want you to ask me again, or do I want to try to say more about the virtual part of it?
Yeah, say more about the virtual part of it. Okay, so the
Yeah.
idea about the app, and you got it on here. Someday maybe this could all be coordinated by the cafe app. How did that feel for you?
I liked what you said about the app. So what I remember is that you said, okay, if Neutrino Cafe could be its own app and it could have different modes of interacting in it, it could have the audio only place. It could have audio visual interaction. There could be different rooms in different ways. And I liked that on the virtual level because some days I don't want to put on a shirt and a bra, and I just want to be maybe listening, and I don't even want to see people. I maybe just want to drop into the audio scene. So I liked that idea. I liked what you also said about, and maybe there's more to say about that. But the other thing I heard from you is you told me about a kind of some kind of app that could go within a Neutrino Cafe app that had the ability for people to basically sell outer authority by the minute.
Yeah, yeah. I work for. So one of my major sources of income is I do psychic readings for a
Mm-hmm.
living. So I use this outer authority and my
Uh-huh.
open head to
Uh-huh.
intercept people's thoughts and give it back
Yeah.
to them so they can say,
Uh-huh.
"Wow."
Uh-huh.
It gets people hooked. People really get hooked when you share what they're thinking.
Yeah, I bet. So I don't get to have that experience because I'm the one who's thinking all the time.
But
Um,
and I've always undermined it because I've seen other people do it. They're just not aware they're doing it, and I just feel like anybody with open head can do it. But anyway, so
yeah.
yeah, so that, like, for me, I work on a hotline that
Uh-huh.
people can access me anytime. All I have to do is log on, set a rate. I can set my rate. I can change it any day that I want to change it, and
Mm-hmm.
people can just pay me by the minute for my outer authority. And so I saw that featured because when you discussed about having people available, like, so in
Yeah.
this app, the Neutrino Cafe app, there could also be that room for get advice or get analyst coaching.
Exactly. So, the way that it has worked in bars and cafes over the years is, you might meet somebody and maybe you'll buy them a drink to get them to talk, or you'll buy them and so I'm thinking, well, why can't somebody just put $5 down to get somebody to talk? Like I know a lot of people whose outer authority could be well utilized. It would be, good for them to show up in a cafe and know that somebody might put down 5 or 10 or 15 or $30 for a little bit of their outer authority right then. That's another thing about the cafe is it's now. The cafe is only happening now. Facebook allows conversations to be partially dead and partially alive. Somebody just put in some words and then somebody's. But in a cafe, it's either happening now or it's not happening. So the nowness of the cafe is part of it for me.
Do you see the comment from Missy K?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
To
she
have
says, at this point, I just don't have interest in any other social media than Facebook. It could be from a place of comfort, but on the other hand, I have not had a surge to do it. And I hear that comment
Mhm.
so much. I hear that sentiment expressed so much.
Yeah. That, yeah, I'm on Facebook, but yeah. So in other words, the
I hear
sentiment.
that sentiment, like where people are like, do I have to go on to and get another app, do something else, social media, like, and
Yeah.
I feel that too, which is once again why I feel like it's a very individual thing. Because if I and you can correct me, Ice, and say more about this, but I was led, I had been studying or learning that individuals are stick with the same thing until the end. Is
Hmm.
that correct about the individual frequency? Just not liking to try a lot of different new things.
Well, once you find something that works for you, you'll repeat it a lot because it works for you. Yeah. So like you always get your coffee at Starbucks, or like I get this certain cookie at this cafe, and I just go to this cafe for this one cookie. Yeah.
And so, and that's again why I don't think that those places like the Clubhouse or this Discord, they work well for individual frequencies
Hmm.
who are wanting to be mutated, because that's something new and different and got to try all of that. Where the
Right.
collective folks jump on it and they jump in it, and I just see them like.
Right. Yeah.
But I
Okay.
think the
Well.
individuals, and I'm curious what Missy, what her
Uh-huh.
her primary circuitry is. But that
She has
sounded
the
like a,
12. Well, I think I can tell you, she has the 1222. She's a manifestor with the 1222. Yeah. Well, she's in our LYD. She's in LYD. Yeah. Um, so yeah, so I guess maybe that's a good point. Maybe Neutrino Cafe is really an individual and tribal place. It's not a collective place. So that's interesting because, yeah.
that's a whole new idea right there.
Yeah, yeah, and maybe the collective people won't even want to come in the door because because it's a bunch of hugging individuals inside. I don't know, but that's the point. So the other thing Missy shared in the comments was she said, "I want you to have both a virtual cafe." Oh, let's see. Adam dropped out. That was an unexpected thing, but I'm gonna send him another link in case. So we don't know why Adam's um, connection's gone, but it is. Maybe he'll be back. So I think what I was saying was that Missy said virtual and physical cafe, and I I'm thinking similar. What I have thought is I know that I'm going to live in my current house until October, and that's a long time. But I don't know where I'm going to live after October, and I don't know if I'm going to stay in Mexico. I can imagine going back to Europe. I can imagine being in Europe and in Mexico. And so for me, the idea of founding a cafe online, so to speak, and then having the ability to do physical incarnations of it, like, hey, I'm living in La Paz for 4 months now. I can create a new, a physical location for Neutrino Cafe. But you know how it is with cafes, like how do you do a pop-up cafe, like really physically? I mean, restaurants are like low margin, cafes are low margin places. Oh, it looks like Adam might be coming back. There we go. Well, there we go. That wasn't bad. Adam? Yeah? Can you hear me? I see your face. You're moving a little bit. Maybe you're setting up your audio. Oh, I've added you to the stream. Let's see. Adam, can you hear me? Apparently not. Let's see. I'm going to try running a banner, see if you can. Let's see. I'll create a new banner. Okay. Okay. Well, while we're waiting for Adam to come back, and we're about an hour. Oh, look at, I could run this ticker. How about I run this ticker? Practicing being a television producer here. Okay, so Adam's internet connection isn't on. So this is the risk of internet broadcasting, is people's phones can die out. Let's see. What else could I share while I'm waiting for him to maybe come back? Let's see. Adam, can you hear me?
I can hear you, but
There we go.
it's something is delayed here
Okay, let
on
me
my
see.
end. I think
What if I
I'm
do
having
it?
signal connection problems. Sorry.
Okay. Well, I can hear you. I can hear you quite well now. But yeah, if it's not good on your end, then maybe this is the end of our hour. I did call it a coffee hour. We've been on for an hour. Hmm. Well, I could blah blah for a bit, but I'm not sure what else I should say. I could run. There's no way to pause the broadcast that I know about. Maybe I'll go back here. No, this is a good one. But I could stop my camera. There we go. I'll try this. Well, hello. I don't know who's here, but we've lost Adam. Maybe a phone connection issue there. So I'm going to go ahead and look in the comments and see what's going on there. Okay, thanks, Missy. Okay, nice to hear from you, Missy. Seeing this evolve, and yeah, safe place to lose your mind. That came out of me, and I was like, oh, but I mean, that I'm really serious about that. It's like we're this experiment's about not loving, not living from your mind, and really losing your mind is what living your design. Oh, there was Adam. Okay, so okay, let's see. I'm going to add you. Okay, is your audio there?
Yep, I'm back.
Excellent. Okay. Well, we just a few people came and went during that time. So the thing I was just getting to talk about was that Missy says, I love the comment, a safe place to lose your mind. And that came out of me, and you liked it also. And I was about to say, it's a little sensitive issue for me in a certain way, but I'm serious about it. Like, I would like to really go all the way and see what it's really like to like really not live from my mind. And I'm doing okay, but I've got a lot going on in my mind. But part of the issue is I feel like I need a container for it to be safe. you know? Like losing your mind is like ending up, homeless, it sounds like, right? And basically I have been homeless for like several years, but I always somehow had enough money and somehow had a safe place to sleep, But having a cafe or a place where I know like I'm always safe there's something to that for me. Is there anything you want to say about a safe place to lose your mind?
Well, I I'm just visually, like,
Mm-hmm.
once again, I recognize something just now that I do a lot is that and I've been criticized for is that I turn away when someone says so. They say, "You're not looking at me." And I've always told them that's because I'm listening to what you say, and I don't want to if
Yeah.
I'm distracted. So I caught myself just now listening to
And
the
I've
idea. I
seen
found
you looking
myself
out the
turned
window.
away, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm turning away so I can just get the audio.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now that we've talked about it, I can see, oh, that's what I'm doing this for. I'm just wanting to hear the audio. And
Yeah.
so I'm visualizing and I'm hearing and taking that in, and it moved me. A safe place to lose your mind. Because I'm thinking about relationships
Mm-hmm.
and how when I'm going through my experiment
Mm-hmm.
and going through any type of thing where I am doing any type of experiment where I'm trying to transform or heal or allow myself to evolve, I just got really kind of little sentimental at the idea of how important it is to have a safe place for you to lose your mind so you can evolve
Mm-hmm.
and be able to say, hey, I don't know what I'm going through. I don't know what the heck is happening to me. I'm
Yeah.
having all of these, just a safe place where you can just be like, I don't know what I'm experiencing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
not have
Yeah.
somebody say, get it together. You're losing it. You better get
Right.
control, or to say, you're scaring me. You
Right.
sound
Because
you sound
that's what
like
the
you need to go
homogenized.
talk to a therapist
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Because it's not safe to say that to most people.
instead of being able to come, lose your mind, and have somebody unpack it with you.
Yeah.
And somebody say, "Oh, tell me more. What really? Like, oh, you were having those thoughts, or you've been feeling that, or you're questioning you question that reality now. Tell me more about how you versus looking at you and say, dude, you need to go talk to a therapist."
Right, right, right. Yeah, yeah, exactly. And at the cafe, maybe you even like, buy a dirty chai for someone who's losing their mind, like maybe you even support them in
And
some.
let them unpack losing their mind some more.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Mhm.
Because I know that we're all not sounding bored, but maybe Isa, you can attest to this. We still have mechanics in us that require some type of sharing to hear ourselves, to get more
Yeah.
information, even if it's not our authority. Is that speculation correct? There still is some value in just unpacking things, even if it's not your authority.
As far as just talking things out, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I assume so. I don't can't recall anything specific in human design that would say otherwise. I I find myself sometimes I'll say something that I wouldn't say otherwise, but for being in a conversation with somebody, right? So electromagnetics are part of that, I imagine, like you have you're one of the people in my life who has a gate 43, and maybe that helps me say things that I couldn't say otherwise because there's a bridging happening there. So yeah. Now, when you say it's not your authority, what?
I mean, because I guess I was saying, I know there are people who
Uh-huh.
have, I guess, what they call a sounding board authority, where they
Oh,
need to
right,
unpack
right. Oh,
things
right.
to hear
Yeah.
themselves out, or maybe ego authority, where they
Yeah.
need to just
Yeah.
talk it out, and then they can
Yeah.
hear and get, oh, I now know what I need to do, or they now can
Yeah.
feel it. And I would say,
Yeah.
even though we may not all have that
Right.
authority, I still feel like there could be value, and there is value in just unpacking things,
Yeah. Yeah. It
having the
just it's
safety to unpack your mind as it's
yeah.
beginning to be deconstructed.
Yep. And at some level, I think it's not even about the words that are even exchanged. It's all these other things that are happening in frequency exchange. Like it's not because you and I are sharing these words in we've had like three or four, hour long conversations at least in recent months. And I don't think it's just that we shared words. I think we shared frequencies that went into each other and empowered each other. You know, I definitely feel empowered by communicating with you. And I think you feel the
Likewise.
same. You wouldn't, yeah,
Hmm.
you wouldn't be in my class if you didn't feel empowered by listening to me. And if there wasn't value for you in that, you wouldn't have. So, but it's beyond the literal meaning of the words. I have a frequency that you can hear. There's something different there. And I don't think we can. My mind can't label it all. Maybe there are people who can. Um, yeah, maybe even the mental projectors that could explain that better than I could. Um, yeah.
It's interesting how we came back to audio, came back to sound
Yeah, we
in our
did. Yep,
conversation.
we did. While we have all of this visual, this whole production scene right here, so maybe this isn't Neutrino Cafe, you know, ultimately this thing that I'm working with right now, but um, hmm.
It does seem like it all comes back to the importance of the acoustic.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it does seem that way. So that's something for us to figure out. How do we make the cafe an acoustic place? Yeah. I don't know right now. I can
And maybe
imagine.
and I would imagine as a manifester, it's just holding an intention. My
Yeah.
speculation is if you hold the intention, you just move in that direction.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I can imagine, for example, I can imagine, okay, on fourth line days doing like a networky sort of fourth line day, and it's just, you know, no video, just what we're doing now, but without the video. I can imagine that. You know, I don't know how much it would sell though, right? Like how valuable is it to people? Like I don't know. But hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
But
I
it is
don't.
because we're still hearing it because you can still hear and see, and you can look away like I did. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah,
you can
yeah,
look
yeah,
away
yeah.
and
And
catch
it's
it. Like when it hits you, you'll look away. Like let me just get that audio. Let me just get the audio of this.
yeah. Yeah, and I just saw you too. You turned your left ear. That's your emotional ear. And this is my, you know, your non-emotional ear. Um, hmm.
Well, this is. I know I probably scattered with you everywhere, but I enjoyed the the space, the cafe this morning.
Yeah, well, me too. Thank you for being here. Do you want to ask me any last questions? I mean, we've been on air over an hour. I think we've done our and we didn't even get to talk too much about your heretical fifth line, but we'll just say, I see your fifth line, you don't. It's fine.
Well, you know what? I was going to say we probably didn't talk about it, but for those who are probably listening and
Yeah,
probably know human design, they probably can hear it in all of my little speculations and
yeah,
language and just my whole, they're probably getting that fifth line from me because there's 10
exactly.
fifth lines in me, so you can't help but to get it.
Yeah, that's true. It's a good thing for me. I know what that means when I look at a chart, you know. um, do you want to ask me any last questions?
Um, well, I will. I am curious. We didn't talk about quickly
Yeah.
when you said the destination of the metaverse. I am curious what what is your movement feeling towards that, or is there anything right now in you?
Um, well, here's what happened was I dove into metaverse research earlier this year. I was like, what the heck am I doing? But all of a sudden I was seeing it, okay? And around that time, I remembered I saw a video from 1994. It was like Good Morning America with Bryant Gumbel. And Bryant Gumbel have you seen this video? Bryant
Yeah,
Gumbel literally, you know, Bryant Gumbel literally says, what the heck is an email address or something like
yeah,
the
yeah,
internet was so new and personal access to the internet was so new in 1994 that he asked this question that makes us laugh now because the
yeah.
internet is all pervasive. Okay, so 1994 was basically the year that Ra Uru Hu was really putting human design out into the world. Like he he had some great transits happening that like really lit him up as a well, individual manifesting generator, and he was just in full stride from what I saw, okay, and heard. And so those two things came together in my head and said, human design was barely there at the beginning of the internet, and then he was one of the first. I think human design must have been one of the first things that was taught on the internet. You know, like Ra got to retreat into his house and just teach, you know, through the internet. One of the first people, I think, to do that really on a big scale. So I was thinking about the technological changes in my lifetime. Okay, so the metaverse right now is something that, I don't know, what, 2% of people talk about, maybe 30% have heard about it now because, or maybe more, because of what Facebook did with its name change. Talk about a name change. Talk about a name being the foundation of the Maya. They made that name change because they want to be the foundation of the metaverse. Okay, but the metaverse isn't all Facebook, by the way, everyone. Only Facebook thinks they want to be there. Okay, but the metaverse is so much more potentially. So anyway, so I dropped it though after a couple of months or whatever. I just dropped it. And then after a conversation with you in recent months, you came back either in the conversation or later and said, I see this Neutrino Cafe in the metaverse. And I was like, yeah, I do too. As soon as you said it. There's something, I don't know why this sounds okay to me, but I can imagine putting on my goggles and walking into my cafe. I could be in Mongolia, I could be in Brazil, I could be in Mexico, and I could walk into my cafe. And there was something about that that seems, I can just see it going there. So it feels like it's already on its way there, and I'm just not in charge of the timing. Yeah. Anything else about that? Let's see. I don't know if we still have audio because your camera is sideways now. Oh, all right. Well, okay. Well, maybe I don't get to talk about that today. So the metaverse. I think that Neutrino Cafe is going to end up in the metaverse, and I'd like to be at the beginning of that. Human design in the metaverse. In fact, okay, maybe one more. And you're on.
I missed that great unpacking.
Yeah, well, I was just you've heard it all before. Like
Yeah,
basically, I see it going there in the same way that human design and the internet were once 1994 and now you know.
yeah.
So I want to and I want to create it because I'm not going into somebody else's into somebody else's metaverse cafe, you know. So I just think we're on our way there, and we're not in charge of the timing. That's my
Well,
sense of it.
who better to build it than a 6'2" manifester?
I guess. I mean, I just don't know how it's going to happen. And that's the most awesome, wonderful thing about it that I can admit I don't know how it's going to happen. But yeah, it's going to be more than you and me, but it could be you and me as, you know, we were the first conversation. So
Well, I love to offer my cross to planning any way I can.
I've heard that, and that's very empowering to me. I think you know that. So much gratitude to you from me for being that. Um, we're gonna need some other help. I don't know what else is gonna happen, but for now, I could probably say that's enough. Is that enough? Enough coffee
Yeah,
hour for you?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. This is great. This is great. It's perfect for me. Thank you so much, Isa, for what you've initiated and got
Yeah.
started. It's been very
Thank you,
impactful to my
Adam.
day.
Yeah.
My
Thanks
pleasure.
for.
Totally my pleasure.
Okay. My pleasure too. All right. Well then, ciao for now.
All right. See you.